everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Indie Corner Radio. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I have an awesome guest here. How are you doing, Tommy Faircloth?
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good.
Good. I did pronounce that right. Like, there's no other,
Yeah, it's pretty easy. It's Faircloth, not Cloud. I get all kind of weird pronunciations.
Do you?
Yeah,
That's what I was gonna ask because, like, I don't know. I thought it seemed pretty easy and
yeah,
standard.
it's not pretentious at all. It's pretty basic.
Right. That's good. And your movies, by the way, are not pretentious at all,
No.
which you see a lot in horror, the horror, like indie horror genre or whatever. You see a lot of people who are kind of they think they're making art when they're not, they're just
Yeah, my stuff's really even when I try to be serious, there's a lot of tongue in cheek. I get a lot of my influence from John Waters, and I can't get rid of it no matter how much I try. So
well, that's good. I honestly I don't know if I saw that or not, but
if you see some of
interesting.
my earlier stuff, there was a lot of influence.
Actually, you know what? I just watched Dollface, and yeah, I maybe I can see a little bit like with the I guess I don't know. See, I'm afraid to say things these days because
Yeah.
everything changes. So you say one thing wrong, and then people are like, "That's not what you're supposed to say." So drag queen, is that still appropriate to say
Yeah,
these days? um,
I guess that's it. So
yeah, there's three drag queens, I guess, and in Dollface, which I loved. There's so much going on in that movie,
yeah,
and
it was Dollface was technically a sequel to my first film called Kremlin Head, and I the way I shot it is you didn't have to see or I even have heard of my first film to see it, and so that the reason I had the drag queens in it, it was a throwback to the first film where all these kids are driving, and there's a hitchhiking drag queen in the film, and they pull over and he's like high and drunk, and it was just a throwback to that. That's the only reason drag
oh,
queens were in it at all, but ironically enough, because drag queens were in it, that's why the distributor that picked it up, which was Breaking Glass Pictures, because they normally only distribute gay films or dramas. And when they saw that the drag queens were in it, they thought it was something that they could market to their gay audience, as a horror film. And so that, ironically, when they contacted me, that was one of the reasons why they wanted it. So
I did not know Breaking Glass mainly did that. That's
yeah,
interesting. I don't know. I've never dealt with them, so I can't say one or the other. But I am so I just watched it last night for the first time because to get ready for the show and everything, and just to be familiar more with your work, because I've seen A Nun's Curse, and I've seen definitely I own both Nun's Curse and Family Possession,
right.
which both star Felissa Rose. But it was amazing to see Deborah Shawn,
Yeah,
in your earlier work. And we just interviewed her recently, and she's such a sweetie.
yeah, I love
Uh, yeah, we're hopefully interviewing Felissa. So it's really kind of cool because, like, this season of Indie Film Cafe Spotlight, where we interview people who've been on who we like, I guess it's more people we've watched their movies or whatever, like kind of thing. I don't know. Like, B movie people and whatnot. And Debbie Shawn was one of them. And I absolutely loved her in this movie. Like,
Yeah, she's great. She was hilarious. It was I actually shoot my own films as well, and it was hard for me to actually shoot a lot of her scenes because I would just lose it.
you just start
I
laughing.
would ruin takes, shaking the camera. So, but she's hilarious. She's really good.
She is one of those people that I mean, was a lot of her stuff like unscripted, or was it all of it scripted?
I mean, I pretty much, had it written like I wanted, but I told her as long as you get the point across, you can say what you want. So every take was something different, everyone. That's why if you have the DVD, there's a lot of outtakes on it, stuff that we didn't use of hers, which is hilarious.
Yeah. Oh wow. I have to get that DVD because right now that seems to be one of of the three,
Yeah.
that I have. And you made other films too, but I think mostly shorts or something.
Well, I've only done one short. Well, technically I've done two. but I've done 5 feature films. Before I did Dollface, I did a short called The Cabin, which it was a pretty long short. It was like half an hour, but I'm actually working on a feature-length script based on that right now. But originally, when I started doing film, I shot on film, like 16 millimeter. So it was way before the digital world existed. So my first film was Crinoline Head. My second one was Generation X. And then between that and Dollface, everything went digital. And so I did The Cabin, a short film, as kind of a test to see, what the medium looked like, what I could do with digital. And it turned out to be a pretty decent short. It played in a lot of film festivals, and it actually played it got picked up by Shorts TV. So it was like on a lot of, cable channels and things like that. So it did pretty well. And I've always been interested into, making a feature out of it. So I think that's probably going to be what my next project's going to be when I get around to finishing, the script for it.
Nice. So Crinoline Head was the first, and that was the Dollface original, right? Like that was
Right.
the original thing.
The original title of Dollface was called Dorchester's Revenge, and then the tagline was The Return of Crinoline Head. But of course, that's a huge long title, and if you didn't see the first film, why would you watch the sequel first? And so, I agree with the distributor. We needed a shorter title and just something that, they want something that you can say in a second, that'll fit, on all the digital platforms and everything. And so I come up with that name, Dollface, and they liked it and it worked. So, because it is kind of a standalone film, you don't have to see the first movie to enjoy it. So
the first movie was like, I guess made in 96. Was that what I read?
Yeah, 96, 97-ish. Yeah, I think it came out in 97, but we shot 95 and 96.
Wow. So
Yeah.
that's crazy.
I was actually in school, in film school, when I shot that during summer break. Yeah.
See, that's the funniest thing I always hear is that people shoot like a movie during the film, but not like something that like is class, like nothing in class. It's just
Well, actually, I did get credit for it because what it was is I wanted to shoot a feature, and it was super expensive to rent, film cameras, back then. And so I signed up for a summer course, and it was called Independent Study, which basically means you could do anything as long as you got it approved. And so I got it approved that I was going to shoot a film, and that gave me access to all the school's equipment, sound equipment, lighting, cameras, everything. And so me and all my friends, we got together, we got all this equipment, rented a lake house, went and shot the film. Of course, the camera ended up breaking, and I had to rent one anyway, but still, I still had access. And so when I finished the film, I got distribution, and I also got a grade for it. So it kind of worked out.
So Crinoline Head is available still or no?
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon. I think you can stream it on Vimeo, I believe.
Oh wow.
It was originally released on VHS. This was before DVD. So like you could get it through Fangoria and things like that, mail order, stuff like that. But I got the original release converted to DVD many years back. So you can still get copies on Amazon and through like my store or Creek Productions website.
Oh wow, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's neat. Was there like what was the biggest learning thing that you got from like learning experience from working on your first film?
It was, expect everything to go wrong pretty much. But what I've learned then, which I carry over through all my films, is I shoot really quickly and I shoot all at the same time. I'm not someone that's going to shoot a week here, then wait a month and shoot a week. I can't do that, because people will drop out, you'll lose locations.
Oh,
So
I
the
know.
main thing for me is planning, get everything done, within 2 weeks. And I pretty much stuck to that, even with my features now.
2 weeks is a good amount of time. I go crazy when I hear people do it like in 4 days. I'm like, like I can't imagine that. Like,
it's almost like a game now to see how quickly I can shoot a film with the least amount of people possible. It's like, like with Nun's Curse, we had a very, very tiny crew. but we were mainly in one location. So I mean, it was challenging, but it wasn't like, we're having to go to 10 different locations, in 8 or 9 days. But it's all about planning. As long as you have everything planned out, beforehand and not wait till the last minute, you should be okay.
Was The Nun's Curse the shortest time you've shot a movie?
A feature, between that and Kremlin Head, my first film, I shot Nun's Curse. It was either 8 or 9 days. I think it was 9 days, because there was a flashback scene in Nun's Curse with the little girl and her father. If you've seen it, that was shot about a month before the rest of the film.
And that was Jason Vale, if I'm correct.
Yeah, Jason Vale and the little girl. That whole bedroom scene and her flashbacks of her, going to her closet, having a bed. All that was shot a day, about a month before everything else was shot. So technically it was shot in about 9 days.
Nice.
Yeah.
I always love seeing Jason in your movies, yeah,
he's really good.
It's fun to see him pop up.
I wanted him in it. I just said, this particular film, when I was telling him I was, doing this new film, I was just like, I said, it's like, the Breakfast Club. We're all stuck in one location and it's all these kids. I don't have anything for you, but I hadn't finished the script at the time. And that's when I later added the flashback and the girl's father. And so that's because he's been in like my last 4 films that I've done, 5 films really. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So he's been in all of them.
Yeah. I actually directed a short film that him and another girl wrote and produced, and they kind of hired me to shoot and direct it. It's called Anniversary, and he was the star and she was, but I don't consider that my film because I didn't write it. I just put it together for him. But yeah, that was technically another short I did.
Well, did you produce it or did you just direct it?
I just shot it. I physically shot it and edited, and then I directed it. Yeah.
Well, still, I mean, I think that's still sort of your your film with
it's
everybody.
In my work. Yeah. It's just with me. I've always only done my own, stuff that I've written myself, and so it was an experience, because I've always wanted to do that. I mean, I still would like to do that, the feature, kind of be brought in and have nothing to do with, the story whatsoever, and just direct it, or, and then walk away and be done with it,
Was that sort of easier for you to do, like be able to direct and then just say, all right, I'll just
not really, because
and...
I shot it as well, and I was responsible for editing, get it all done. So really it was still kind of as stressful. Now, if I was just, directing it and I was done,
yeah,
I think that'd be a lot easier, less stressful.
Well, sort of. I mean, but it's still like, and especially if you come with a crew that already know like pretty much everything that there's, need to do. But if you're just directing, it's got to be pretty easy, just go in there, tell them what you want to do, and then do it.
It's always better if the director is also the editor, because you're going to know the shots you need. If someone is just in there and does a scene and they have no idea about editing, and then you get going through your footage and you're like, damn, I wish I had a shot of this or that. You would know that if you had an editor's mind when you're directing a film. So that's important to know.
Well, that's why I always like have a DP as an editor, because I always like to make sure that if I have a DP that is editing the movie, they sort of know in their head where how these things are going to be cut, as opposed to me, who I'm not an editor, and I don't claim to be an editor. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. Like some people are really good at it.
They storyboard out like every single shot, scene by scene. And I don't do that. I just kind of break the scene down into shots I know I want to get, and keep a list, just kind of like a shot list. I don't go overboard with the storyboard and everything. It's just extra time and money that, I can't afford to deal with. But a lot of people do that to make sure it's going to look, how they want it to look, especially with producers. Someone's producing a film, they want to make sure they know in their mind, what it's going to look like when it's put together. And so having someone storyboard the entire film is pretty important for them to see that.
But when you're the one producing it too, you don't really have to worry about that. But when did you say you shot list?
Yeah, I'll make a shot list.
Okay.
I'll make a shot list, of course, once I get on the set and I, you're like, I think I want to do a shot like this. You come up with additional ideas, or sometimes you just forget it altogether. Like, we're just going to get at this, because of time or whatever, but I always make a shot list because once I'm on a set and I've got so many things going on in my head, if I didn't have the list, I would forget, what I wanted to get. So I've got it in front of me and I mark it off as I do it.
That's very smart. I'm not very good at shot listing, and it's the same way I'm not very when I write. It's sort of different too, because like when I'm there on the set, it's things change a lot, and what I think I can get doesn't matter now. I kind of know, generally speaking, you want to start, with you don't want to start with your close-ups, you want to start with your God, I can't even think right now.
You want to
Like,
get
just
your coverage and your
yeah, you
But
want to get as much coverage as you
yeah,
can,
it's
just
better to have too much, definitely, than not enough. And that's one thing I've learned too. Is that I shoot way more than what I need, but that's a good thing to have.
absolutely. I agree. So yeah, that kind of thing is just sort of, the way it is. Like with shot listing, it does sort of let you know, and well, for me, it would let my camera guy know what I want to do. But since you are the camera guy, like it sort of just helps you like look over, okay, let's do this, let's get that done. So I always kind of recommend it if you can or want to. I'm very bad at that, just because I like to see things when I start doing it, and then I change my mind, like, every second. I've got ADHD, so
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
crazy on set. But so how much more do you have planned out generally when you shoot?
Well, I mean, I pretty much have, it's a year of planning just to get, the locations and make sure people are, there on the days. Because, on Nun's Curse, I paid my actors to be there even on days that they weren't filming scenes, just in case something happens, and you have to switch days because of weather or whatever.
Mhm.
We went through 2 hurricanes while we were filming. And
Nice.
so some of our outdoor scenes, we had to switch. And so some of my actors that weren't technically going to be working that day, thank God they were there. We had to switch, that around. So planning that out, making sure you account for weather days, like the days I had special effects, making sure those guys were there and had all their stuff. I mean, it's a lot,
Mhm.
to deal with just one person, or, when you're doing it by yourself. But you got a year, I had a year to get it all together. So when you look at it as one thing, yes, a ton, but spread out over a year, you just get on your checklist and make sure everything's ready to go.
So how much of that is scripting, like in that year?
Well, the script is the first thing I do before I even consider shooting, because I have an idea for a movie, but my thing is I'm realistic. I don't go write some huge sci-fi type of film that I have no idea where I'm going to shoot it. I like to find locations first. I have an idea, like for Nun's Curse, I had an idea for the story, but I needed to find the location so that I can go in there and plan out my scenes, with what's there. Because originally this story was going to take place in a jail in another part of the state, and it was going to be about actually a warden, not a nun.
Oh,
And I found this really cool, abandoned jail, and it had like the rooms where you visit. It's got the glass partition, things like that. So I had some good ideas for some scenes and everything with that, but then I lost the location. So I got the film office to help me find another jail. When I found, got this new location that had this really cool stained glass window in the front of it, and it's actually built in a tower, and the tower is where they used to hang prisoners. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then I did change from a warden to a nun because, I want it reminded me of like some Gothic, church or something. And I just kind of switched up the story. And then once I got to tour the whole location, I could be more specific, with my scenes and plan it out that way. But for me personally, I like to, find locations and just keep them in my back pocket and pull them out for stories and things it just makes it more realistic when you can utilize every aspect of the location in your story without having to change it once you're there.
Well, recently I discovered what it's called, like Nunsploitation or something, where just tons of nun movies are
Yeah.
getting made these days and everything. Like and so it's really cool to go to like Walmart and see a Nun's Curse and then see it next to like Bad Nun or Nuns, whatever, like I'm trying to actually own as many nun movies as I can. So,
Yeah.
yours is in my collection. So like let's talk a little bit about we talked about you working with Debbie Shawn and Felissa Rose. Have there been like scream queens that of the past that you wanted to work with and just haven't had a chance to yet?
Well, I'm really good friends with PJ Souls. I love her. She's super sweet and nice. But I know she has rules where she told me she doesn't want to get killed in a film. That's one of her big rules, and pretty much everyone
wow.
gets killed in my movies. But I would definitely like to work with her. But someone that I worked with in Family Possessions was Mark Patton, who was in Nightmare on Elm Street 2. And he's someone I've always wanted to work with because I remember, seeing that film when I was in middle school and just thinking, he was the coolest thing ever because usually, all these final girls were women, and here's Mark. And so, he hadn't done a horror film since Nightmare on Elm Street 2 when I was writing Family Possessions, and I originally reached out to him. And he was like, yeah, that sounds cool. And I was, once I finished the script, I hadn't talked to him for a few months, and I just assumed he probably wouldn't be interested. And he contacted me, was like, asked me how the script was going. So that was cool working with him. And on that film, actually, Felissa and Mark, they weren't in any scenes together, but when they started doing conventions and promoting the film, they become best friends.
Yeah.
I'm working on that. So that was kind of a cool thing. But are
you gonna put them in another movie together, like where they actually have scenes?
Well, when I was originally doing Nun's Curse, Mark was insistent, he's like, you should write a mother superior in there and I can play her. And I was like, it's not like that. I said, that would be hilarious.
Hey, that would be the John Waters thing to do.
Yeah, that would be the John Waters version. But but I saw Mark a couple of weeks ago and he was already, you still got to do that movie with me and Felissa. And I'm like, I know. So
if you watch out, if you don't do it, somebody else will. So that's the problem with indie world these days is people are just like, put you, they'll see a good thing going and they'll be like, try to latch onto that too. But it was really cool. It's really cool to see Mark. I had actually interviewed Mark. He didn't remember this when I spoke to him the other day at Scares That Care, but I had interviewed him a while back, briefly, or whatever for one show. But it was nice. He was a really good guy, and I've always respected him as an actor. So I hope he is in one of your next movies.
Yeah, he's really well spoken. Like if you ever just sit down and listen to him tell a story, because I've interviewed him, I brought him in as a guest at a film festival I do called Crimson Screen, and just like hear him telling his story, like when he moved to New York and started out on Broadway and things like that. Just hearing him, I was like, you should do audiobooks. Your voice is very soothing and it's really good. But maybe he'll do his own autobiography one day. I don't know.
Maybe. Who knows? That would be pretty cool. I maybe it'd be called like Jesse's book or something.
I mean, he's got some great stories. He tells me all kinds of crazy things, like from back in the day. He's like, yeah, I remember when, I can't even remember, this might not even be the truth. I mean, might not be telling right, but he'll be like, Robert Downey Jr. once rented a room in my house, and like so-and-so walked Sarah Jessica's Parker's dog, on the week. It was just all these hilarious stories from back in the early 80s, when that whole group that's now, uber famous now, were kind of starting out. And he was kind of right in the middle, with them. And it's just so funny hearing those stories.
Yeah, I interviewed back in Scares That Care, the first year. I interviewed Robert Russler, And it's just his stories, not just from Nightmare on Elm Street 2, but from, Weird Science and, Thrashing, which was what I really wanted to talk to him about. This is
And he
one of
was in
my
that
favorite
movie
80s
Shag,
movies.
which was shot in South Carolina, which I'm obsessed with. I've always been obsessed with it.
Which movie?
Shag.
Oh, yeah.
And Phoebe Cates was in that. That was kind
Jeez.
of during that same time frame.
He's so all these guys are out there, I mean, I would love to work with Robert Russler because he was such a nice guy, like just
Yeah.
chatting with him. But yeah, money, like that's the thing with these, because they having those people in your movies does really help, I'm sure, like having Felissa Rose's name, Mark Patton's name, Deborah Shawn's name,
Yeah. I
on
mean,
the
it's
movie.
fine to have a name too, but it's like it's important to me that it's not just a name that, I mean, they're good, but that I also click with. That's why, like, whenever I get someone to be in my film, like Deborah, I'd worked with before, many years ago on a film called Head Cheerleader, Dead Cheerleader, and so I already knew her. And I met Felissa a few years before we ever worked together. So it's just important to me that I know they're cool people. They're not gonna show up on the set and be miserable and make everybody else miserable. I don't care how big of a name you are. I don't want to work with people like that at all.
I've heard stories, of different people, which sucks because, like that's what you got to be careful,
Yeah.
like if you fuck up on a set like that, people talk,
Yeah.
and you're,
And it's a very small world. Horror community is a very small, tight knit community. And even if you're
exactly.
a guest at a con, and there's some drama, it gets around really fast. So
Yeah, it is, and it's scary. That's I've known this for years since I've been doing cons. Like when was your first convention?
oh my God. I know what my first convention was. Jesus. It may have been like no, it was probably oh no, it was Spooky Empire when it was in Orlando many, many years ago.
Isn't it still in Orlando or is it not?
The last one I went, it was in the Orlando. It moved to a larger location. I thought it moved to Tampa one time, but maybe it came back. I don't know. It may still be in Orlando. But back when I did that short film, like I was talking about earlier, The Cabin, Spooky Empire had a film festival called Freak Show, which is now its own separate, film festival. But The Cabin was played at that fest, and so that was the first time I went to like a horror convention. And that's a huge one. I mean, it's massive. And but yeah, I've been to ton, of course now I've been to, bazillion since then. But it was kind of overwhelming.
Do you I mean, yeah, how was your first experience? Because I'll tell you, man, the first experience I had was at Texas Frightmare, walking in and just seeing all these celebrities just like already like in the lobby of the hotel. Like
Yeah.
it felt like I told Sid Haig this once when I interviewed him, but I said it felt like Jurassic Park. Like it felt like you're walking in, you're seeing all these things, you're like, oh my God, there's John Carpenter sitting on the couch getting podcasted. There's Sid Haig and Bill Moseley chatting with each other. Then you see Kane Hodder walking down, giving you a death stare. Like it felt like, Jurassic Park. And his response was, the only difference is we can't eat you. It's in our contract.
Yeah. If I, I'm sure it'd been a different experience for me, when I was younger and, watching horror movies growing up, if I went to a convention to see all these people that I looked up to. But when I started going now, I'm there trying to promote, my movies and things. So it was kind of a little bit different, but it was still crazy. Like I can remember, being at a Days of the Dead, we had a table promoting Dollface. I think it was Dollface or either Family, but one of the two. And I remember like across from me was PJ Souls. And then in the corner, one table down from me was Corey Feldman. And then over here to the right are like all these kids from Strangers. And it was kind of weird. It was, like surreal because I grew up watching these people and like here I am. It was just really strange.
Do you ever give like your DVDs out to like celebrities for them to watch?
No, I mean, I don't, I'm real worried about like I'm the worst salesman ever, you know. Like I'd rather just talk to people than even push anything that I do.
Really?
Um, yeah, that's why if usually when I come to these events, I'll bring my actors and put them up just so they can kind of meet people because I'm just kind of really like I'll meet someone and known them for a year, then they'll go, I didn't know you did movies, and I'm like, oh yeah, why did you tell me? I'm like, just don't talk about I just don't like I just don't talk about it. I just do it. So
That's actually that's good. Like some people are very different on that. Like
I'm not
some
a very
people.
good self promoter, but that's not why I do it. I do it because it's it's fun and it's like a creative outlet for me, and I meet a lot of cool people, and it's like me and Felissa, even if we hadn't done films together, it's like we're best friends and like we can just hang out and be stupid. Like this past month, I've seen her more than I've seen her in the past 3 years. So
Well, yeah, you've been you were at a couple conventions that she was at, I believe, right? You're at like Tampa Bay Screams, if I'm correct.
yeah, Tampa, they had like a little pop up a couple weeks ago, and then like we were in Houston Horror Film Festival, Scares of Care, and yeah, what was it? The one in Tampa was pretty funny because I was just going to hang out, and I ended up being like her table assistant, taking photos for her. And so people would come up to her and they would talk, oh, I saw you in that Nun movie, blah blah. And she's like, oh, well, here's the director right here.
That's awesome.
I told her, I said, it felt like it was Sunset Boulevard, where I used to direct her movies, but now I'm her butler, and now I work for her. But no, it was fun. It was.
You're her assistant now.
Yeah. I said, now I'm here taking photos for her.
Be careful, man. It didn't end well with that guy in Sunset Boulevard. So he was talking to the audience. So yeah. I don't know, like what was going on. But yeah, that's good. Did you go? I have to ask this because you were mentioning this to me before. But did you go to Busch?
Oh yeah, I went to Busch Gardens on Sunday. Honestly, I was there maybe 2 hours. I'm a big roller coaster nerd, and there was a coaster there that had opened since I've been there, and I needed to get the credit. That's what I call it. And literally went there, rode that ride, got some meat left, and then.
Well, which one was it?
That's that wooden coaster they have called Invader.
Yeah. Okay.
It just and I was with a friend of mine. After she rode it, she got sick anyway, so we left. And that night, PJ Souls took me out for Indian dinner, so it was a cool day.
Yeah, it sounds like a cool day to me.
Yeah.
She was really sweet. She was
I love her.
Telling me about her family and the stuff that was going on.
Oh, yeah, she loves her family and her grandkids, and
yeah,
she reminds me a lot of my mom, and showing me photos on her phone. She goes, "Oh, I'm sure I'm boring you." I'm like, "No."
Yeah, she's really sweet. I don't know if she likes hearing that. She reminds me of her mom, but
she does. Which is funny because my mom, or either she friended my mom on Facebook, and my mom was just couldn't believe it. Oh my god, PJ Souls friended. I'm like, well, it's because she knows. You're my mom.
Yeah. My parents, well, at least my dad and I always watch, like, Stripes was one of the movies that we watch all the time. Used to have it on like Betamax and all that stuff, and so we'd watch it all the time. But and so it's really cool just chatting with her, because she's just like such a down to earth woman. You know what I mean? It's not even like.
It's not a big deal to her. She just, talks about it like it's anything.
Right. And, and then you're like looking at her going, oh my God, you're from, Rock and Roll High School. You're from Halloween, from all these things.
She'll tell you all these stories about, oh yeah, I was hanging out with, Joy Ramone and blah, 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 back when I was with Dennis. I mean, she's just all these names and you're just sitting there going, this is crazy,
Yeah, I heard like there's a bunch of funny stories that I've heard from her, and stuff. Don't want to tell her stories, but let her do that herself, but she's such a sweet lady, and I just had a fun time chatting with her. Felissa, I've known for a while. Like, we were supposed to work on a project, it didn't happen, but it might actually be happening, so things like that. So I was just really happy to chat with her some more in person, because I don't really go to that many conventions these days, and she's at almost every convention.
Yeah, and every convention you go to that she's at, she's going to have a line wrapped around the building because everybody loves her. She just takes her time with everybody, and she's so genuine with everyone, and she makes them feel like, they're the only people there.
I noticed
And
that.
it's smart, but she's not doing it to be smart. And that's, people just keep coming back to her every day, every convention. And it's just crazy. Even like celebrities will come over to the table and be like, your table, there's always so many people lined up to see you. And it's like, yeah, you should take notes.
Yeah, you should learn from her.
Yeah.
She is she like that sort of on the set too?
Oh yeah. I mean, the easiest person ever to work with. And we have so much fun. We just crack up. And some of the funniest things ever on Nun's Curse, because when she was in that makeup, she had to wear those contacts and she couldn't see anything. She was completely blind.
Oh, Jesus.
Just some of those scenes, where I'm telling her, there's that really cool scene where she whips around and the stained glass window breaks behind her and she's staring at the camera, but she couldn't see where the camera was. So there were so many takes of her whipping around and she'll be staring at the wall. And I'm like, no. And so
you gotta go over here.
just cracked. I mean, it was so funny. It was.
You'll be like, you gotta go over here, and she'll be like,
I was
I
like
don't know where
Helen
here is.
Keller as the nun.
That's funny. The other one I was thinking of is that she was I mean, like A Nun's Curse had one of the tropes that annoys the crap out of me generally, right? Like generally speaking, I get annoyed, and I don't know, I guess we don't want to spoil anything, right? You don't want to say anything, the ending of
Oh, I
A
don't
Nun's
care.
Curse. Okay, if you don't want to hear this, by the way, you can mute for about 30 seconds or so, a minute or whatever. But we're going to be talking about the ending to A Nun's Curse. So, the ending to Nun's Curse had a dream sequence, and that usually pisses me off. My co-host for Indie Film Cafe, Paul, will always joke on that with me. They're like, "Oh no, look, I can see Jonathan getting mad right now," and because I would get beat red. There are some movies where I'm just like that pisses me off, and then I watched that, and I actually liked it. I don't know, it worked for that specific movie.
It's
I
kind of
feel
like it's kind of like the ending of Nightmare on Elm Street, the original,
right.
where everything's fine and the mom's waving, all of a sudden she gets pulled through that window in the door and you're just like, and that was kind of like the thing with Nun's Curse. It was like all this shit happened, and you're like, it's a dream, but then of course there's the nun at the end still in the prison, and people can interpret it however they want. For me, it just meant that the prison was actually the girl's brain, like that nun's still creeping around in her head. She's probably going to end up killing those people later, type of thing. But
Nun's Curse
also,
Part 2.
yeah, and also like in the movie, different things that happen, people say, well, it's not realistic that blah blah this would happen. I'm like, well, it's all a dream anyway, so it don't matter. So then you can always just write it off.
Yeah, but isn't that like, that's sort of a cop out when you come to writing?
Yeah, well, yeah, when you're shooting it and people want to sit there and debate you on it, it's like, oh, it was a dream anyway. So next,
Yeah, just
shut them down.
Yeah, it's just a movie. I mean, at the end of the day, people I think get to, especially horror like lovers, or whatever, they tend to over criticize or
I mean, it
over
had its little
analyze.
underlying, little deep message, about her and her childhood and all that, but it's wrapped around comedy and absurdity and killings and blood. So that's just, again,
Well,
I can't be serious. I'll try to, but I just can't.
the John Waters in you,
It's
man.
John Carpenter meets John Waters. It comes through every time.
Jeez, that's an interesting combo right there. The two Johns right there. I honestly, and people are gonna get on me about this, but I was never like, I didn't grow up on horror, necessarily, right? I grew up mainly on comedy. That's why I like Stripes, Princess Bride, those kind of Ghostbusters, which has a little horror in it, was sort of that, and Jaws were sort of things that kind of helped me, become a little bit more. And then watching like shows like Are You Afraid of the Dark and things like that just kind of helped me get into horror more. But it wasn't really till like Scream or something where I saw like comedy and horror together, that made me go, oh wow, this is an interesting mix, and then later I became more obsessed with just regular horror or comedy, So I don't
Right.
know. It's an interesting thing of like I never grew up on that, but so I never grew up on John Carpenter until much later in life. And I respect and like honor him, but it was just never my thing, growing up. Were you always into horror?
Yeah, I mean, I can remember, I mean, this tells you how old I am. I can literally remember being in the theater seeing Jaws when I was a kid with my parents. And I just remember how scared my dad was. You just have certain little memories that you can remember, even though I was probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old. But I remember him freaking out trying to find me. And I was literally sitting next to him. And I just think to this day, that's hilarious. Makes me laugh when people get scared and jump. And I think that's why I like horror. But like from that to, in the early 80s when there weren't that many channels and you would get like free HBO, for a couple of weeks and they would play the same movie 3 or 4 times a day. And I would see Friday the 13th 3 times a day, or I would see Halloween. They play those movies. And I think that's originally what got me into that, because I liked to be scared and I like to watch other people, be scared. And then, of course, the VHS market came out, and you would judge a movie based on its artwork. How cool is this movie? Look how scary this box looks. And I remember seeing Sleepaway Camp, and then it just completely warped me when I saw that movie. I was like, 10 or 11 years old when I saw this, and I was just so confused. I was like, but yeah, I just was obsessed with the slasher. And even back then, in middle school, I would write these stories based on, horror movies that I'd write a sequel to Jaws when there wasn't a sequel, or, additional sequels, Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street. I was just obsessed. And even in high school, when Nightmare on Elm Street came out, and before there were, Halloween Express and all these places where you can go in and buy a Freddy glove and a mask, I literally made a Freddy glove out of my mom's steak knives and wore it to school. And like literally you would get expelled if you did that today. And I went to school with a knife on my hand.
And they were okay with you doing like,
yeah, they were. I posed in photos with my teachers, and I mean that was a different time,
I know that's very dangerous. Jesus.
You could not do that now. I'll be in prison.
No, not at all.
I just remember doing it. That's because I was obsessed with horror. I just loved it. And I collected all the magazines, and I had Jason on my wall instead of posters of whatever cars and things.
Remember back then, nobody, like everybody, and I mean, I didn't live back then. I was the 80s. I was born in 82, so a little later. But still even in the 80s, there was like a lot of talk about basically a horror being like warping people's minds, to the point where they were, a serial killer or something, supposedly. Like you obviously bringing knives to school and everything, and still not being a serial killer, just having a love, as far as I know.
Right.
But what I mean? Like there's that love for horror that that most people have, that it's just, it's not, we're not dangerous people. We're just people who love dangerous things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and this, the whole thing, I mean, someone that's a serial killer, yeah, they probably like horror films, but I'm sure that's not why they're a serial killer, and another thing that was huge back then was like, heavy metal music. It's going to make you kill yourself. It's going to make you, that whole thing too, which I was obsessed with. But, it didn't affect me that way at all. My mom, she didn't care. She knew I was all about all these crazy movies. And my sister, would have all these Barbie dolls, and I would make, VHS horror movies with her Barbie dolls and like chop their legs off and things like that. She's like, he's just making a movie.
Right. Like that's how people chalk it up, really, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I read or heard Quentin Tarantino discuss like how he would play the movies with the GI Joes,
Yeah.
He'd just do, he would just,
you don't have a cast, so you can control these dolls. And I would, my sister would be my cast, and we would create these horror movies.
Right. I would do that with GI Joes. Just, I would just have GI Joes running around shooting each other or whatever, and that didn't mean that I wanted to pick up a gun and go shoot people.
Yeah.
Just meant that I just enjoyed that entertainment of
Sorry,
it.
my dogs are in here wrestling. That's all that means.
That's okay. That's okay. I love dogs, and mine would be in here if you weren't in the other room. So but yeah, it's so funny and so weird, like how people satanic panic, like all of that
Yeah.
stuff. Like people just thought like people were, and mainly a lot of that has to do with a lot of stuff that was actually happening, uh was it Jim Jones and other things that were Charles Manson, things that were actually happening that did sort of scare the world into thinking, okay, more people could be like this,
Yeah.
but I don't think horror films have anything to do with it. It's all pure entertainment,
Yeah.
but what was the line in Scream was like, the movies didn't make us psycho, the movies made psychos more creative, or whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I totally believe that. I think you can't blame movies for this stuff. You have to blame the people behind it. If somebody's gonna go murder somebody, that's on them.
Yeah.
That's their,
Murderers have been around before. Way
yeah.
before films were ever created, and so
Yeah, I'm
it's
pretty
not the
sure.
movie.
Yeah.
It's your head.
They're fucked up people out there.
Yep, pretty much.
And if they watch horror films, maybe they'll get an idea or something, but like
Right.
they might get an
Copy
idea.
it, but
They might get an idea from Law and Order Special Victims Unit.
right.
Like, I mean, should we stop anything that has to do with, no, that's just ridiculous. But also we do live in a different time period now. Like there's just way too much other stuff going on. It makes horror films a little harder too, at times, because now you gotta like kind of figure out if you're, like I said in the beginning, like just gotta figure out if you're saying something wrong, because things get changed around, and
Yeah.
you
You don't want to offend somebody.
you don't want to offend somebody because, like, some people don't care about offending people and whatnot, and that's fine. But like I don't want to offend people just because, I want more people to listen to the show, the
Mhm.
more watch the show. And like I don't want people going, oh, he said that, so I really don't appreciate that comment that person
That was
made.
like in Dollface, some of Debbie's lines were like, you think we should, she should say that? And I'm like, yeah, because I don't care. I think it's hilarious, and that's how, I mean, it was borderline. It might have been offensive as in what she said, but not offensive to a group of people, So that's where
Right.
I kind of draw the line. I'm like, but yeah.
Well, I mean, and it wasn't like, because she was never saying stuff like, she never said like the N word or
Oh, no,
anything
no,
too offensive like that. Like you said, to a group of people. She was
no.
saying offensive things that were just sort of
About
funny.
body parts and herself, and
Yeah, I like, like, I almost like when I was taken aback when he said the line like to her about her being basically older, and everything. And I was just like, dude, you're digging yourself a hole, man. Get out,
he's like, what was it he said? He's like something about I've never been with a
older woman
older
before.
person. And
Older
she's
woman. She was like, what do
like
you
my
mean?
mom's age. Yeah.
Like my mom's age. And she was like, and then he then had like a line that was perfect for him to like get out of that.
Yeah.
Like I forgot what it was exactly, but it was something to the effect of like, oh, but I still, still like you kind of thing. And like he was just, that worked really well because I honestly, I don't know. There's some characters that you were supposed to hate, there. Obviously Deborah Shaw's character is supposed to like because she's so funny and goofy.
Yeah.
But then there was obviously the Janet character, that was, you're supposed to hate, and her I guess her like that stuff was, see, I don't know, would people make this stuff anymore? Like, I mean, some people might be offended by, that kind of crap, but I don't care. I think it's hilarious.
It was always funny seeing that like with a crowd of people that had no idea what they were watching. So
Yeah, they're
almost,
like cringing and
yeah,
but so have you gotten a lot of feedback now that these films are on like Tubi?
a lot of feedback from.
Like audience members that maybe you've
Um,
never.
I mean, I know I've gotten tons of feedback just from when they were released, and it's always cool to meet somebody that enjoyed it. I remember when Dollface was on Hulu. Um, we were at a convention, and some guy come up to me, and he was like, "I saw Dollface. That's the best horror film on Hulu right now." Thanks. It was crazy hearing
That's
that.
awesome.
But yeah, I love hearing stuff. Because even if it's just one person that gets certain scenes, that it's worth it. So
Yeah, and you said Breaking Glass put that one out, or did they
yeah,
put out the okay?
I put
So,
that out.
and that's awesome. Like, I mean, that's the wonderful thing now is that we live in the digital age. So, I mean, it's nicer if people pick up the DVDs, and I am gonna buy it. I'm gonna
Mm.
buy it on DVD. But it's also really nice that people have, because I'm not gonna lie. I what I'll do is I might buy the DVD, but most likely I'll watch the streaming, you know,
Mm.
because unless I can't, like, unless it's gone from streaming or something and I can't watch it anymore. But like it's just easier, and DVDs can mess up or have traffic, tracking issues, whatever, like skipping
Mm.
issues and stuff that, I'm tired of, like, until they make like an indestructible disc, we're always gonna have that problem,
Yeah, I
um
mean, I like having physical media, but mainly, like I was saying, there's usually extras you can't get on. You watch it on TV. I like the behind the scenes stuff and the interviews. I like all that stuff too. But when Walmart is just like a huge, it's probably like one of the only places that pick up physical media now. And when Nunsploitation came out, it was like right in the middle of the pandemic, and honestly, I think that helped, because people would go to Walmart pretty much, and that's it.
mhm.
And they would buy up everything in sight, to watch at home. So they released it on DVD, I think, before it was really streaming everywhere, which was kind of smart, on the distributors end, because everybody bought up all the DVDs, and then once it was on streaming, it was on Amazon Prime and Fandango, and now we're in Tubi, and there was something else that's just got put on now. Like, I guess I forgot what it was. Like, IMDb's got some new streaming service now.
Oh wow, yeah,
I can't remember what it's
IMDb
called.
DD or something.
Something my distributor was just telling me about. That's it's on there, going on there now next, and so it's done really well. But it's always cool just to actually be able to go into a store and like see it on the
Mhm.
shelf, and that's
Um,
that's just something cool to see. I like to be able to walk in there and actually buy my movie.
I agree, and it's better that they put it out in the video store, in the Walmart or whatever before they do the streaming, because I had this incident at Scares That Care one year. I had my movie in the theater, being played, and then we're selling copies, of it out there, at our table. And so these people said, "Oh, I stopped by and saw your movie," and I was like, "Oh, did you like it?" Like, "Yeah, it was great. It was blah blah blah." Right? I was like, "Oh, do you want a copy?" "No, I watched it."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Fuck,"
That's another thing, honestly, the people that buy movies in Walmart, I mean, 95% of them, they're the type of person that's probably what they do. They don't
Mhm.
stream movies or use, Amazon Prime. These people that pick, they're kind of like impulse. I mean, my distributor even said again, they're kind of like impulse buys, honestly. $10 for a movie, yeah, sure, I'll get it. If it sucks, who cares? That type of thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, the ones that religiously stream everything, that only have Hulu and only have Amazon Prime, of course, they're never going to buy it. So it's good to cover, all your bases in that.
Well, I have this feeling, and I don't know when it's gonna happen or how it's gonna happen, but there's gonna be like a different thing with streaming, because right now indie filmmakers don't really get much from
Mm.
streaming, or distributors, period, don't get much from the streaming. It's like a few cents, an hour or whatever it is, something like that. And that's nearly not enough, you know what I mean? So I feel like things are gonna start changing at some point, because sadly, because theaters are gonna sort of, start kind of losing it.
Yeah.
They're already not doing well in the box offices. Things are just sort of going badly for theaters, which sucks because I do love going to the theater,
Mm,
or like big movies, like big Marvel movies or DC movies or something,
yeah.
But it just feels like um things are just kind of changing or evolving or whatever, and going more towards streaming. And thankfully physical media is still here, you know.
Yeah. That's
Um
totally on. So who knows?
yeah, or do you have a big huge collection of like DVDs yourself?
I mean, I wouldn't call it a collection. I mean, I have a ton of movies. Honestly, I have like CD binders that are about this thick, and I
Oh,
don't even.
so that's how you do it?
I keep them. Yeah,
You
whenever
don't
you
keep the
know it, you have to
cases?
adjust them. No,
If you
but
notice
I have
behind
a
me,
few.
that's some of my
I have a few
movies.
cases, that of like TV series and things like that, or collectible ones. That but most of the time I just slide the disc in and go on about throw it away.
You throw away the cover?
Yeah.
I just can't do that because like the
I mean,
part
unless
of,
it's like a friend's, movie, or it's like a collectible to me.
yeah, like
It's just
you
some
can get it
basic
signed or
Conjuring
something.
or some any movie, or I'm just keeping the disc.
Okay. All right. Well, that's understandable. Completely different. I love to keep the cases. I don't know why. I do. There's some movies that I can't find the cases for or something, or whatever. But aside from that, generally speaking, I like to keep the cases because I like to have them. But I'm more leaning, even though it's easier to buy DVDs, I'm more trying to get Blu-rays. I'm
Yeah.
trying to collect those now, or 4Ks, or whatever's next, 8K, 12K,
Hmm.
25,000K, whatever,
Right.
becomes the next thing. But, trying to keep it like that. So is there anything that you wanted to like let people know about, like projects that were coming up or stuff that's going on in your life that you just want to let people know?
No, I mean we're just still, pushing the Nun's Curse. It's doing well for us, and we did get some really cool action figures made. Sister Monday, I got Felicity to sign some, and I think we're gonna do. We only got 13 made, and I think we're gonna put some up for auction on the website and like give it to a cancer charity.
Oh, wow, that's nice.
Just do some things like that. But just kind of taking it easy. Working on some scripts and things like that. No big rush. Having a good time. Going to these
Mm,
horror conventions that are starting back up again, and just that's about it.
enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
Do you feel like COVID kind of helped with that a little bit of like realizing sort of, like, what I mean? Like some people, I feel like they were like, things were going and going and they
I
were
took a
just,
lot of stuff for granted, having
yeah,
everything shut down. Yeah, I mean, it could be, because everyone's just so happy to get back and do things again. But I mean, that might change again too with all the crap that's going on now. But honestly,
yeah,
I mean, I was just glad to get out again. That's for sure.
just go out and go to
People.
Virginia. And
Hmm.
um, it's so strange, like being at Busch Gardens, like without masks, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, that
people
was
with
the
the,
first park I've been to. Since I couldn't tell you when, but I'm wanting to go to Disney, but they started the mask thing back. I just want to wait till all that's done to go and enjoy it, because I don't want to walk around the park with a mask on. I mean, I get why you have to, but I'm not interested in going until that's all done and everything.
yeah, you got to come back up to, what was it, Busch Gardens during October for Hallow
Yeah.
Scream.
Hmm.
Those
I'm
things
actually
are,
going to Cedar Point next weekend,
oh, cool.
which is in I love, which is in Ohio. But we know, as far as I know, there's no mask mandate for that park. But that should be fun. I like that part.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like the mask thing is understandable, but it's sort of annoying, in the
Yeah.
same sense of like it's really hard. I mean, Scares I Care, it was hard, but it was understandable.
Yeah, and it
You
was kind of a
know,
last minute thing too, because originally it wasn't, and then they changed it. But then I noticed during people were just real lax. You know, some people were, some people weren't. You know, it was a
yeah, I
whole.
mean they were trying to keep it
Yeah,
like
I
that, but
mean,
like
it was like the email said. You know, these people are, or this fest convention. You know, is giving funds to these people that are fighting for their lives with cancers and burns and things, and they can't exactly not have a mask mandate.
right, it's kind of messed up for them to say,
Yeah,
oh well, we're giving money to people,
yeah,
and then
don't
we're
wear a mask, they
also
don't care. Yeah, so
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's I get that.
And apparently CDC like recommended it or something, or was enforcing it. I don't know. All I know is I'm hoping I'll be there next year, hopefully having a table. But until then, you know I mean, I'm excited about it. I'm like excited to be a part of it
Yeah,
still. I've never missed one yet. And so, because I live like 10 minutes away, so there's no reason
mm,
to miss it, or whatever. But anyway, it was really nice chatting with you, dude. And
thank you.
I can't wait to see the next movie that you do.
All right, I appreciate
And
it. Thank
like
you.
I said, I'm gonna buy Dollface on DVD at some point.
Okay.
Because I got the other ones, man. I gotta have like a collection. And
Yeah,
I don't have I gotta get the other ones too as well,
yeah.
the first two that you made. But I will, it'll happen. And I'll have all your
All
other
right,
movies. So thank you so much. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week.
all right. Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.